Yo,
Yo,
happy New Year, man. 2023. What's popping, baby?
what's going on, man? It's another episode of CC Smack
Hey,
Podcast. It's your guy Josh.
bro, it's your boy Toby, man.
Yeah, man. Your favorite Baltimore duo is back. We have a
Yeah.
special episode today. A couple special guests with
Yes,
us.
sir.
We look forward to bringing them on shortly. But man, it's a new year, first episode of the year. We starting with a bang.
Uh-huh.
What's good with you?
Hey, I want to say, so we're in the same building. We typically record in different places. The way Josh is looking at me in my eyes right now, I'm like, yo, what's good with you, yo?
Yeah, man.
Hey, I'm just happy I brought you into 2023, man, because, I did have some big changes in 2023. I'll get into those things later.
Right.
I didn't bring everything from 2022 into
Yeah.
2023. But hey, man, look, like Josh said, we have a couple of big guests that we want to introduce, but we want to make sure that we keep tradition. First things first, we got to thank God.
Amen.
Thank God for bringing us to a new year. Thank God for all our faithful listeners. Thanking God for all our new listeners.
Yep.
And also thanking God for allowing us to imagine things, right?
Yes.
Me and Josh have been talking, and the things that we're trying to put in motion, this time last year, we weren't thinking of it.
Yeah.
And it's only by God's grace that we're able to do that. So, yeah, man, in terms of what's been going on with us, I'll let you go first. What's been up with you?
Man,
Any New Year's resolutions?
New year, new me? Nah.
Hey.
Man, everything's been good with me, man. I think I talked about it a little bit at the end of last year, how I had been voted onto a board. So it's a Greenways Association board. So I have my first board meeting tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. And then and just last week I just got asked to be on another board, a PAL league, police athletic league. So I'm just trying to see, how much time commitment that takes, to be involved with that as well. Outside of that, man, just grinding, man.
Mm-hmm.
I was out the gym for a couple of weeks, but I just got a couple of races put on my schedule, so I'm starting to prep for those. I got accepted into the Brooklyn Half Marathon in May, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward towards that.
Nice.
Probably gonna do my typical St. Patty's Day 5K, down in Baltimore. And then my homegirl Megan from college, she told me about this 10K in Richmond in April. So looking at those things.
Yeah.
The regular, man, just the options game, man, just dealing with, the volatility of the markets, things like that. Toro business still going smooth, everything like that. So, man, I'm happy. I remember I told you I took that hybrid, corporate job, so that's going good. So, man, I can't complain, man. I'm thankful. What about
And
you?
we got some deals in process as well.
Yes.
You told me about an opportunity, so we're working on that.
Yep.
Hey, look, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. It has been an emotional 2023 for your boy.
Has.
So look, I just gotta tell the truth, and this is part of my therapy journey, right? When I podcast, I love connecting with individuals that pay attention to the podcast. As you know, last year I proposed to my fiance. We were engaged, and I'm no longer engaged now. That is a shocker. But one thing I will say is there's a reason you have an engagement period. And in that period, you should be putting yourself through trials because marriage is not easy. Marriage is tough. And look, I still love her, whatever role she is now.
Just say it.
But yeah, but for me, it's just, hey, look, we have a lot of work to do before we can actually take those vows before God. So it was tough, but look, this is somebody that I still respect, I still care for. And we're gonna work through it. But it's been some time now. It's been at least a couple weeks. I've had to actually process this. So hey, keep me in your prayers. Keep me and Whitney in your prayers,
Right.
So yeah.
That's deeper than, you be hearing people like, yeah, I'm gonna break up until after Valentine's Day. Like, nah, this is deep. Like,
nah, it wasn't. Nah,
this is not a casual breakup. Like,
nah, like I said, you get into the engagement period, and I think everyone looks at it as roses, like, oh, this is so great, it's so fun, but you really start to learn more about each other on a deeper level. We weren't living together, so we started to think about, okay, well, what's our living situation like? What's our budget situation like? How are our finances? Hey, let's look at our taxes. Like, these are things that we did in this engagement period, and we just figured out like, hey, there are a lot of differences that if we just rush into this, we might wind up hating each other because, hey, look, you told me this, I told you this. So I encourage everybody in that engagement period, do the work. Do the work in the engagement period.
What they say, like a stress test, like, hey, push thing to do a stress test.
Look, man, and it's not easy because look, I want a wedding too. I like to eat wedding cake.
It's not easy because I wanted to go to Nigeria and
yeah, we was gonna take it to Nigeria. I had my guy, hey, we can still go to Nigeria, bro.
Yeah,
I mean, you can still go to
but
Nigeria.
I heard like the Nigerian weddings, they got the money shooters and all.
I mean, you can still spray money on me. Like I'm your guy. You can still do that.
Nah, I'll just wait till you
Why wait?
till you
I'm your guy.
Your next engagement,
My next engagement. Hey, wait. First of all,
whenever that is, I'm not rushing you.
Hey, Whitney, I don't know what this man talking about. There's no next engagement. Yeah. Hey, man, we having too much fun right now.
Yeah.
But I want to go ahead and introduce our guest. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let you do the honors. I didn't talk too much.
So this evening, we have our fellow, Northeast New Yorkers, Dallas transplants, your favorite cleaner business coaches, Anthony and Jhanilka Hartzog.
Got it.
Hey.
Got it right.
Hey, like that first time, you just gotta take the pause and make sure the pronunciation is there. But thank you all for coming on to the podcast this evening.
No doubt. Thank you for having us. Thank you guys for having us. And if I could just comment on that engagement thing, because I always say I respect a man or even a woman that could say, listen, we got to pause this and come back and figure it out later. Because a lot of people, they'll still go through it because they already posted on IG. They already sent the emails out. Yeah. Everybody already congratulated them. And I know how hard it is because one of my best friends did it too. And I respect a couple that could say, let's figure this out before we dive in. So much respect and Happy New Year.
No, thank you for that. And, I do want to ask you a off the cuff type of question because I was getting a lot of advice from some of my mentors who are also married. So one thing that they told me is they said, with marriage, what you see is either going to stay the same or it's going to get worse once you get married. So it's like if you see something that gives you caution, you want to address it before the wedding, because what a lot of people do is they think once you get married, you're going to change for the better. And it's possible, but a lot of my mentors are telling me, hey, look, it's a slim chance that, kids come, marriage comes, people get older, people get a little, relationship, wedding weight, it's just things just get amplified that you saw in a relationship. So I want to get your thoughts on that because I know you guys have been married for some time. You have a child. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I want to get both of you guys' opinion on that.
I agree 100%. I always say that. I don't think that much changed from because we got engaged and then started living together and then got married. So I wouldn't say that much has changed at all with living together and getting married. Marriage didn't change anything for us. So I know that I feel like growing up, that's what you heard all the time. Like things change when you get married. But it didn't. And that was good. That was a good thing because I married you for a reason. I don't expect things to change besides we're growing together. So our finances change and that type of stuff. But in regards to personality, I feel like that person will be exactly the same, the same way they are, the same way they give you an attitude, the same way they're dirty. It's gonna stay the same. You know what I mean? You just gonna see it more because you're living together or because you're married. So I agree that it doesn't change. We've been married going on 7 years, and Jhanilka's she's 100% right. Where if you see these couples or social media or you watch TV and you like, why would you marry that person? It's not like they woke up one day and was like, yo, I'm completely different. I mean, it does happen. Don't get me wrong. It does happen, granted. But most of the time, that's the person that they married and got engaged to 5, 6, 10 years ago. And now they're just now realizing those red flags. So whatever those red flags may be, you could go from one extreme to the next. But the person that you get engaged to is probably going to be the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with maybe some weight or some tweaks here and there. But I think we both stayed in shape so far.
I think we both good on that front. But no, you're 100% right.
It just shows in different ways.
Yeah.
Because even now, you think about like your friends that maybe are in relationships and be like, didn't we have this conversation 2 years ago when such and such did that? And now we're here and they're doing the same thing. So it just shows in different ways when it comes to that.
Nice. So I want to go ahead and just give you guys your props, right? So just a little bit that I have found out from just searching on the internet. You guys have a hustle that is, in my opinion, unmatched in, married couples, right? You typically see the husband is out here hustling and the wife's over here, Amazon, just, hey, I just want to spend the money. But from the little bit of research I saw, it's like both of you guys are out here getting it, and it even shows with the way this podcast got set up, So just to give everybody some context, we got an email. And it was a holiday season. I know I was busy. I was doing some things and I wasn't checking the emails. And we got a follow-up email like, hey, guys, it was good. And I was like, yo, they are on it, man. So shout out to you and the hustle. And if you could just open up by just talking about the hard work that goes into success. Because I think everyone's looking for, okay, give me the secret passage. Give me the backdoor way to get to this. But from what I've learned about you guys, y'all was hustling.
This even goes back to our wedding hashtag, the Hartzogs. You guys can't see it back there, but our wedding hashtag was just back then. This was Snapchat, and we was like every time you check in the Snapchat, was it Snapchat?
It's Snapchat.
You check in the Snapchat, and it had a geolocation. So our hashtag was the Hartzogs. My last name is Hartzog and matrimony. And we said Hartzogs. That was, people put the things together, whatever. And that literally turned into our brand and literally our first business where we said, all right, we're going to start talking about our debt-free journey. And that's where this whole, couple branded debt freedom story came from, just from the hashtag from starting our wedding finances together.
Yeah. And the way that I don't know that there's a secret, but the way that we operate is like, you have to get it done. There is no, we got to get it done. We set a goal and there's no not reaching that goal when it comes to us. And I think what makes it easier is that we've started everything together. So neither of us had a business before getting together or was side hustling before getting together. We've done every single thing together. So it makes it easier for us to continue on that path. And to this day, there's times where he comes up with ideas. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and do it. He's like, no, I want to do it with you. And I'm like, no, you don't have to, though. Go ahead and do it on your own. He's like, but we're more successful together. Why not? And I'm like, okay. So we really value just doing everything together and making sure that it makes sense and checks and balances with each other. And knowing that once we set this goal, we both agree to it. And so we're going to move forward as a unit to make sure that we execute on it as well.
And we was watching TD Jakes today, which is a church show.
The Potter's House.
It's not a church show. It's a church. It's not a church show, though.
It's not entertainment. Right.
On YouTube. And I'm like, how much money does he make on YouTube? There's like 90,000 listeners on YouTube. Yeah. But he was like, he literally said today, he was like, all right, making money is easy. But he's like, where's your wife at? Where's your family at? Where's your kids at? And we were on stage just a couple weeks ago, and it was me and her on stage, and we brought up our daughter because that's what a true wealth is. Like, how is your family doing? How are your kids doing? So, yes, so you could be rich by yourself, but really, who are you really doing it for? So that's why I want to do everything together. I know she's over it at points, but you could definitely be more successful when you have a partner who's aligned with your goals and your vision.
And I think that's a great mentality that you all spoke about, we're going to get it done. One way or another, we're going to get it done. You're not accepting failure. You're not fearing failure. You're like, we're going to get it done. We're going to find a way. We have the resources. You got, the brilliant minds between you two. And I think that's something that, people could use in business more, or even like when they're in that beginning phase of, like you said, you two never had a business prior to, going to business together, multiple businesses, your debt-free journey and everything. And knowing, and like, I'm sure this also included, faith, like having faith that everything is going to work out, because you probably can attest, like there's like some uncertainty that runs through your mind, not only being new to business, but being new to, a industry or, a niche or whatever. So just to have, that faith and, keeping that positivity instilled, you know, inside you all's minds and souls and everything like that. You know, that's definitely turned out to be, you know, great for you all so far.
Yeah, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, it's a lesson and we could just move on and do the next thing because you're always going to learn something from the quote unquote failures. So if we could take one thing and just transport it over to the next thing, then let's go for it.
I like the Aaliyah line, you know, first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again.
Yeah.
Like
it is like it all really started with our debt payoff story, really just when we started paying off our debt and seeing the progress that we're making and seeing, you know, how we're working together towards this goal. That's how our mindset started to change. And honestly, listening to podcasts, which is something that he does a lot, just hearing other people kind of helped us as well to start to change our mindset and to get into entrepreneurial or think bigger or business mindset as well.
Yeah, so one thing I realized going through this engagement season for me, I realized that I used to always say I'm cheap, right? Because I'm the type of person where my fiance was like, "Hey, let's do this." I'd be like, "Nah, we can't do that. No, we can't do that." And you can ask Josh. I moved into a really nice apartment, and it's mostly because of my fiance, and it's not a bad thing. But she helped me realize that my upbringing played a big part into that cheapness. I was just always looking at my mom and her struggling to, you know, make the bills. So it wasn't that I was cheap. I just had some trauma that was, you know, playing out in my adult life because, hey, I was still making decent money. You know, it's just I was always very cautious in terms of, hey, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And, you know, hey, you level up sometimes. So I'm curious, how did your individual upbringing shape the way you guys think in terms of this, hey, let's do everything together? Did you have the two-parent household that was, you know, doing everything together? Did you see the opposite and then you came together and said, hey, I want to make sure I do? How did your individual upbringing shape how you act today?
Well, first I want to say before we answer that, Tony is you and you are Tony, okay? I'll say that. So we both are from Brooklyn, New York, both grew up in the projects, actually the same building. So we've known each other for over 20 years now. We haven't dated for that long, but we've known each other for that long. And our mothers actually still live in that building, one on the fourth floor, one on the sixth floor. So for me, I've always known my dad, so he's been in my life, but we never lived together. So I would say my mother was a single mom, a teacher, immigrant coming from Panama. Me and my cousins are first generation Americans. And that's what I knew. I had like one other aunt that I would say had the, you know, husband and wife thing. I never grew up saying I want to do the opposite or I want this and other. Actually, I said that I wanted to have a child before, like marriage wasn't like vision board, if you will, for me. So it just so happened that we got together and things worked out. But even though we grew up in the same building, we live a different life because I'm also only child for my mother and my dad. He has two younger brothers and he, you know, your own story.
So my upbringing was I had both of my parents in my household. My stepfather passed and my birth father came back into my life and he passed as well. So later on in life, maybe like 15, 16, my mom was a single mom and raising us. But my mindset around frugality and money came from I always had to work because I had two younger brothers. So I couldn't expect that my mother was going to be able to give me what I want. So I knew I wanted Jordan. So I had my first job was at 12 or 11 packing bags at the grocery store. And I had what I wanted because I always worked for it. So even when I went to college, I went away. I was a resident assistant. I was a student assistant. I had at least 4 jobs on campus. So I couldn't call home like, yo, mom, can you send me some money? I always had money. And that was my thing. And even like today, when you mentioned like that upbringing and how do I manage my money, my mindset is that I don't think money's always going to be there. So we always have to go and get it and make sure it's there. So going back to the apartment and where we live and stuff like that, she's like, you could always go and make it again. I'm like, but you never know what may happen. So let's slow down.
It doesn't make sense. Why are we investing? Why do we have 6-month emergency funds? Like, I don't understand what you plan to do with this money.
One thing we said, she's like, I can't asset myself to death. Like, I'm like, that money could be invested to make us more money. She's like, listen, you can't asset yourself to
I
death.
don't need it to work for me if I buy it. If it costs $5,000, it is what it is. He's like, but how you gonna make that back? I don't need to. I saved it. Like, I don't need to.
So going back to that earlier conversation where you know who the person is, it's not like I'm surprised by this because her mom was always in her life, or her father would send her money to like do nice things. He buy her the iPad, he buy the MacBook, and so there was never a without with her. So she always had it essentially. So when we got together, I was like, all right, I understand that. Even when we dated, she needed somebody with a car. You see on social media now, they're like, you gotta have a car, you gotta have 6
you gotta have that. You gotta have
You gotta have it all.
Hey, not just a car. You gotta have a certain type of car.
You gotta have the G-Wagon.
Right, you gotta have certain shoes, all this thing. What minimum is $200 on the dinner tab. Like,
you gotta have a beard. If your beard not there, it's tough.
Our first date was what, Red Lobster or Applebee's?
Yeah. Because we dated in high school.
Wait, was it Red Lobster or Applebee's? We gotta make sure.
Applebee's.
This is my favorite restaurant. That's why.
So we go to Red Lobster at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
And we go to Chili's on my birthday. But going back to that, I don't know where I was going with that.
You were just talking about things that you need, that you knew what I needed from.
Yes. So even growing up, she's like, oh, my guy, my whoever I date has to have a car. And I had a car. I had a car, but I didn't let her know that. So we went out on a date one time, and I'm like, she's like, "Oh, you got a car?" I'm like, yeah, I got a car.
Now I can take you seriously.
Okay, check. Yeah, check. Yeah, check.
You didn't know I had the car when I pulled up until I had the car.
At the time.
Let's just go for shoot your shot.
Now you're saying a whole different theme. That's not what the podcast is about. Shoot your shot.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying.
Fellas, hey, the moral of the story.
Money mindset conversation.
The moral of the story, fellas, don't tell her you have a car just yet. You gotta test it.
That's hilarious.
No, but the reason why I even asked that question, look, people tune into Corporate Coke and Smack, and they know that they're gonna get a lot of advice about money. But one thing that you said was, "Hey, where's your family? How's your family doing?" So I wanted to talk about this because people also got to understand that it's, and if we're just talking about Black people, it's nothing for one person to make it. It's more so about, okay, well, put the ladder down for the next person, and the closest people to you are your family, whether it's your children, whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, so that's why I wanted to kind of dive into some of these, some of the background behind, okay, how did you grow up? How did that shape? Because everybody's dealing with different traumas, and you could either let that lead your life, or you could use that as a stepping stone and say, okay, hey, I know, just like Anthony said, he knew who Jhanilka was. So when she showed him who she was, he wasn't surprised. He said, oh, I already know. And a lot of people don't take the time to do that work. It's all about, social media. Everything has to be, it has to glitter and it has to look perfect, but do the work and it'll help you in the long run.
Most definitely. We definitely did that work early on, and we do it every single day. Like, don't get me wrong, things are not perfect. Like, to get here, we had to make sure our daughter was tired enough to put her down right before the podcast, make sure we ate, make sure dishes was done. We arguing in the kitchen, who putting her down, who doing this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
So it's work every single day.
Nice.
And that's not even talking about any business stuff right there. That's just family.
Right.
So let's jump into business.
Right. So speaking of family, did you have anyone in your family that, you kind of looked up to in terms of, your business principles, like your business acumen? Did you have anyone in either of your two families who kind of, like I said, when you were young, you're like, I think I want to be like, my uncle, such and such, or my aunt, or, anything like that?
So once we started having a business and getting into the entrepreneurial train, if you will, it triggered for me that I had an uncle just like that, if that makes sense. So before that, I never was saying like, oh, I want to do this and the other. But when I look back, I'm like, oh, this is what he was trying to instill all this time, my entire life. So like, for example, in college, I always had extra snacks and people would come and I would just give it away. And he'd always be like, why don't you sell it? I'm like, why would I sell that? That doesn't make any sense. I don't want to sell it. That
Right.
doesn't
Y'all
make
from New
any
York, so
sense.
y'all got that hustle mentality. Like
Right. So I'm like, that
y'all
doesn't make
sell
any
water to a
sense.
well, all that, you know.
Exactly. So, and then anytime, like my mother likes to decorate and MC for different things, he always tell her like, well, you need to give out business cards. You need to start charging people. Like, so it's little things like that. And he always had a concession stand in, if you go into those buildings in Manhattan, you know how there's always like a concession stand on the first floor,
Yeah.
a corner store, if you will. So that's what he had. And in the summer, sometimes I would go there and sell with him, but he owned that, right? So he had that entrepreneurial mindset, but I didn't realize it until we were in it. Like that's what he was trying to tell us. So no, there was no one I would say that I looked up to per se, but this, and like I said, this was I don't know if I said that, this was our first business. So I was actually anti even starting it because I'm like, for what? Once again, if you'll see that theme throughout our conversation that I question everything and I'm like, I don't want to do it. So yeah, but to answer you, no, there wasn't anyone for me.
What was your first business?
The cleaning business.
Oh wow. So that hit the first business actually hit, which is rare.
Yeah, I actually never thought of it that way. Yes, our first business
It is
actually
rare.
hit.
You know, they always
Yeah,
tell you
immediately. Don't get me wrong. It ain't
Yeah.
immediately. We just kept going.
But it hit
Yeah.
quick enough, I guess.
I like
Can't complain.
that. I like that. Now, was there anybody in your family that doubted you? Because business is scary, right? So, you know, you might have a auntie that's like, boy, I tell you, this Anthony boy, he not shaping up. No, it happens, you know.
Right.
There are people who doubt what you can do. And these are people who care for you, and they're just like, "Hey, I want the best for you." And this whole lot. Was there any type of pushback from anyone in both of you guys' family?
Nah, because like I said, we knew each other for so long, and it
And our
wasn't
family
like,
knows him.
and they knew before since we were young. Like we're talking about before you even know who you are as a person. So even growing up, when it wasn't like we just came in and got married, and, oh, quit your job and let's jump into these businesses. No, it was like, let's just try it on the side. We told our friends and family what we were doing. It was just like, oh, a cleaning business, that sounds random, but first people ask you what, and then they ask you how, essentially. So it was like, what, a cleaning business? No one doubted it, but it was just like, okay, well, do y'all
And if they
think?
did, they didn't vocalize it. We should say. If they
Right.
did, they didn't.
It's like, well, do y'all think however we can support you, let's support you. But it was like just seemed random. So that's
Yeah.
where that stemmed from. So I don't say any doubters, but I think everyone was just like, why a cleaning business?
Yeah, because like when you think about cleaning, you know, it's certain stereotypes of like cleaning businesses, you know. So I want to ask, like, what brought about interest, you know, in the cleaning industry itself that, you know, caught you all attention? It was like, hey, let's go for this.
Yeah, so at first I was listening to a story about a kid who started a cleaning business in college, and I hit him up, got some random information, but it wasn't enough to like start the business. So when we actually had a person come clean our home, we had to text them. They wouldn't respond. We there was no way to book them. We had to pay them cash or Zelle. So when we came into the industry, it's like, well, if we put some technology on this, then we don't have to, we could book them on. This is like early on too. So we could book them online. We could pay them online. They show up when they say they're going to show up. And it was a low cost startup. It's like, all right, we put in $1,000. Worst case scenario is we lose our $1,000.
Right.
Best case scenario is now we've done over 1.5 million in the cleaning business. So that's kind of where it started at. And she said no when we first started. She's like,
But
absolutely not.
The biggest thing is that we don't clean any homes, though. That's the key of
Yeah.
it all. We don't
Right,
clean-
right. It's all outsourced.
Now,
It's all outsourced.
let me ask this. Did anyone want to clean homes at first? Like, hey, we could hustle, and did somebody put
Who
their
do you think? It wasn't me. Listen, that's the thing. You grew up in the same place.
They
in the
like, yo,
same
strap his
exact building,
gloves
but just live
on, you
different
know.
lives.
Completely different.
So he wanted to clean, and we did, I think, 3 homes in one weekend.
We didn't start the business wanting to clean. It
Oh,
was just
absolutely
one
not.
weekend was like, let's just try it.
Yeah, because we didn't
Right.
have anybody, and we didn't want to turn the customers away. So it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He's like, let's just try it. I was saying no from the beginning. I don't need to try to know that I don't need to do it. But so we did it, and that was it. Those 3 homes, and that was it. And we've never done
over
it again.
6,000 jobs. And we've done 3, and I wanted to try it out, and we said never again.
Yeah.
He said 3 and out.
Now-
we saw some big homes too. Cleaners make good money,
Absolutely.
but they do a lot of work. So shout out to the cleaners, but we didn't want to do that.
I'm gonna speak on my experience with cleaners. I've had different cleaners. I've lived with family that have had cleaners. Most of the time, they're not black cleaners. You know, these are, you know, of
That's the
different
stereotype.
ethnicities. Yeah.
Hispanics.
Yes, Hispanics.
There you go.
Yes,
Y'all
yes.
podcast, y'all can say
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
Like, that's what he's
Yes,
saying.
come on, man.
And we live in Texas, so
He's still a little soft on the inside right now. So
Yeah.
we go.
and we live in Texas, so that's what it is.
So
That's true.
I think for me, I really want to get the understanding of how you saw this opportunity, right? Because it was an industry where I've never seen a black cleaner. In my experience, you know, every time I call, it's like it's an Hispanic lady. Most of the time, it's a lady. You know, she has friends. They come through and they be cleaning. Boy, they clean. I tell you. I remember when I got when I was cleaning my house to rent it out. I was cleaning. I was scrubbing. And my fiance, she was like, "Yo, let me just order you a cleaner." I'm like, "I'm not paying." You know, I grew up. I was cleaning on Saturdays. I'm like,
He wasn't hitting the baseboards.
Hey.
He was missing the baseboards.
He ordered me a cleaner, and when I tell you, I was tested because I wanted to tell her you were wrong. You know, I cleaned better. I took a little napkin, wiped everywhere. It was spotless. I couldn't believe it. It was spotless. You know, so I think understanding how you saw that as an opportunity, right? Because I don't see any black people in this. How did you figure? Okay, well, let me basically not only start this business, but figure out a way to become like the McDonald's of this business, right? Because you guys are basically, you don't touch and you don't do any of the work. You're just delegating, correct me.
That's correct.
Yep.
How did that ideology come through? Because if I'm starting a business, you know, it's always like, okay, well, operations, let's just do the operations. Let's just get busy. You know, like we never thought of, hey, let's start a podcast label, you know? And I think there's something to be said about having that visionary thought process. You know, was it one person who said, hey, let's attack it from a different angle? Or was it always just like, hey, we got to make sure that we corner the market and everyone is coming through us?
Well, that's how we started it from day one. It was like, well, we're not going to clean because we both work 9 to 5s.
Yes.
So I said, if we could hire people to do their job and we handle all the admin stuff, so the customer service, the phone calls, the emails, the text messages, the online booking, the platforms, the back end, then, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but that's all technology and customer service, which Jhanilka handled because she's really good at that stuff. And I hated people. So we had people that was going to do the job. And we said, if mom and pop shops, they are really good at what they do. Like you said, they're good at cleaning. What they're bad at is the customer service because they can't answer phones while they're cleaning the toilet. They can't, you got to pay them cash more than likely. You can't call them because they can't do any of the work. So that's what when we first started, that was the main reason we came into the market because we saw that need from our experience with cleaners. And then now when we tell people, like, it's just like I work for a tech company and my CEO doesn't know anything about technology. I used to work for a multi-million-dollar IT firm, and my CEO did not know how to literally reboot his laptop. He hired the best people to do the job and paid them well, and he made a lot of money by doing it.
On top,
so having that CEO mindset from the very beginning, we didn't even think about going out and doing this long-term aside from that one weekend. So that was a game changer for us.
The customer service aspect is big because I remember, so when the lady came to clean my crib, she broke a mug and she was so terrified. And I'm like, sis, I'm not going to call nobody on you. You good. Like, it's okay. It's just a little mug. You know,
That's
I think
you.
Yeah.
Not everybody's like that. I'm telling you.
No, I can imagine. But I don't think she had that system in place of what to do when this happens. I think she was maybe new and she was so terrified, like, okay, what is he going to do to me? And I'm like, man, I didn't even like that mug anyway. You know,
so throw it away.
I do want to know who's more cleaner out of the two of you. You run a cleaning industry, you have a home, you know, who's the one who's, hey, I do the laundry, but I'm not going to fold them. I'm just going to throw them. Who's more cleaner?
Tony.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do the laundry. I'll fold it.
He'll unpack the day we get back. That ain't me.
I like to work in a tidy space, so I can't like see the laundry. I can't. That's just me.
Yeah. Hey, Jhanilka, I'm with you. When I come back from a trip, my suitcase has to rest. Okay, it's traveled. You know, it's a lot of miles on it. I let it rest, and then maybe in the coming weeks. And I've been bad. I've had people give me gifts that's full, and it's like, oh wait, got to open my bag.
No. We just came back from, where did we go?
We went to Atlanta
We was
last
in
weekend.
Atlanta last weekend, and that day we came back, unpacked it, put the clothes in the wash, and was ready to go. I think her bag is still in the closet right now.
Absolutely.
It is still in the closet. We've been from Atlanta a week
Hey,
now.
but you know each other, right? You know each other. That's the good thing. It's no
I knew
surprise.
it wasn't going to be unpacked.
Hey, he said
Stuff.
that thing's still in the closet. You know,
I put it
in him every
in the
time.
closet to close the door.
On my side.
Whenever you're ready, enjoy.
So we know that you now have, the successful, cleaning business that's still growing and has so much more potential. What do you think were some of the keys that you all operated around when first starting the business, but also still having that corporate job? Because as we know, corporate job, they say it's 40 hours a week, but we all know it's more than 40 hours a week if you got to commute, if you got team meetings, once they put you on that salary, 40 hours, it's over, boy.
That's how they get you, boy.
So right. So what do you think, were the keys for you all in, handling, like I said, the corporate and, the entrepreneur venture, from the beginning? Because like I said, once you, got, your systems running and everything like that, you can kind of go on autopilot essentially, but getting it off the ground does take work. So, what are your key takeaways, from the journey that you all went through?
So, we both, so once we moved down to Dallas, I started working from home for my 9 to 5. So for both of us, the flexibility that our job provided was helpful as well. Me working from home made things a bit easier, and then him being a director made things a bit more flexible as well. Then we basically played off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. So like he mentioned, we knew that for him, tech was his thing. I don't know anything about tech besides the basics. So he would handle all that stuff. The customer service side of things, I will handle it. I will handle the interviewing. I'm a mental health therapist, so talking is my thing. So I would handle, the contractors or angry clients, things like that. So that's how our strengths and weaknesses were helpful, and then our jobs being, with me working from home, him being a director, being flexible, was something that was helpful to get our business up and running.
And documenting the process. We literally said we want to launch by the new year, and we started the game plan in October. So we literally wrote down what we're going to do every single week. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and we kind of kept going at that point. But checking things off. So we wrote everything down, like, all right, this is our first business, so this is our first LLC. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to file and get that stuff.
No bookkeeping, all that.
All right, checked off the LLC. All right, we got the phone number. All right, we got the payment platform. Check that off. All right,
the logo.
Now the logo's done. All right, the website. This is going to take a few weeks. So having a game plan every single day, every single week for the first couple of weeks, that's how we were able to launch. And then by Black Friday 2017, we got our first client. So we literally took those 4 weeks and we got our first client when we turned our website on, and we was like, okay, we're live now. And then the hardest part about the business is just those customer service calls. Sometimes you just don't even want to deal with people.
Yeah.
So we got to like month 8 and month 9, and we said, listen, we just go one more month. Let's just see how this keeps going. And then that next month, we hit our biggest in revenue for that year. So keep going, documenting the process, and literally check things off as you're starting.
No, that's dope. That is dope. I love the fact that you guys just took action, right? I think there's a lot to be said about people who are scared to jump in. And, I know people who they got the playbook. They're like, okay, well, if I run into this, I know I'm gonna do this. Oh, I know I'm gonna do this. And time just keeps going by. Time keeps going by. And you look up and people who have started yesterday, they have all this real life experience, and you're still just waiting like, okay, well, I have to make sure if I file the LLC, it has to be perfect. I have to make sure if I do. And it's not that you want to make mistakes. It's just sometimes life is going to give you
whatever
it wants to give you, what makes you great is how you adjust to that, So I wanted to highlight that.
You had mentioned that you guys were, bringing a podcast back around. And even with us, when we first started our podcast, it was like we had a baby. and we were going to a studio, and we said we can't go to the studio anymore. And we was like, we're gonna start. You see the mics, we had to bring this stuff in house because we had to pivot. So in the cleaning business, it was literally the same thing. When we came across those challenges, we knew there was no playbook for us back then. There's a playbook now because we talk about it so much. But
Our playbook.
It's our playbook because we built it. But it was like, all right, what's the worst thing that can happen? If that worst thing that can happen to you happens, how do you get past it? How do you keep going? And how do you adjust going forward? And then that's the worst thing that can happen to you. And then
Usually,
you're still alive.
And in this business, usually the worst thing that can happen is somebody leaves a bad review. That's generally like what you don't want to happen. But it's gonna happen. So I don't know. I tell everybody it's gonna happen. If you're like, well, I don't want to get a bad review, don't start the business. Don't start any business. Any business. Because people will argue. Right. And no matter what you do, people will argue that the sky isn't blue. You know what I mean? So we've learned that in just customer service and being with people. So I can't fight everything. So we try to tell people that, like you were speaking about, there's some people that always talks about the what ifs. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? I'm like, you didn't even start yet.
Right.
I have no feedback for you. You didn't even start yet.
And like sometimes they're like the what ifs are so outlandish. It's like, come on, like what's the probability this happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, it's low probability.
Yeah. And what if is what keeps you like from starting?
Yeah.
Because you what if yourself to death.
Yeah. And I'm like, that don't even make no sense. Because then you asking this question and I answer it. Now what? Now we looking at each other. Now, next what if, please?
Right.
Yeah. And I think we got to tweak our mentalities, right? Because I know when I was in undergrad and when I was in graduate school coming up, you would see a woman and you'd be like, oh, let me go talk to her. You would never think, well, what if she say no? It's just like, nah, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Always have that mentality. With business, it's like, why not say, what if I scale this business to X amount? What if I actually go crazy and do crazy numbers on this business? I think when it comes down to things that we're uncomfortable with, things that could be so helpful to others in terms of like, yo, this could set your family up. It's always like, well, what if I fail? What if I succeed?
Right.
What if I can get myself out of debt? What if I could be the first person in my family to touch 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures? And these are all things that they're scary, but if we don't start getting out of that comfort zone that we're so used to, we're going to stay in the same places that we're complaining about.
Yep. So I know when you guys first hopped on camera and did the microphone, it was probably hard. It was like, all right, well, what do we talk about? What are we going to do here?
Well, don't go back to episode 1.
I don't know. I'm kind of like Jhanilka. I like to talk. So for me, like
we know that.
When he brought the idea, because it was actually Toby who brought the idea about the podcast, and I was like, hey, shoot, a weekly commitment or whatever time commitment we need, I checked that off, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And finding topics to talk about, we had similar interests and kind of like the financial kind of freedom and just financial literacy thing. We saw a common interest there, and I was like, yo, yeah, let's do this. And then us just being from Baltimore, it's a lot of interesting things that we experience in our daily lives and in our past. So there was no shortage of topics there for sure.
Disclaimer out there: if you go back to episode 1, we had changed individuals. I think you used to call him Slick. He say his name was Slick. Now he's Josh the investor. But you the one. So
that's hilarious, Slick.
See, I didn't know him as Slick. I knew him as Josh the investor. Like I know him for financial literacy. I know him for entrepreneurship. Those conversations. But if you don't start, you never know where you're going to be 4 or 5 years down the line, because we're sitting there. What if the podcast didn't take off? Well, what if it doesn't? What if the business didn't take off? What if it doesn't? You tried it. Now you pivot and do something else.
I would say you could just ask yourself, what if the what if doesn't occur? Boom. Shut them down.
Sometimes people ask us questions like, well, we haven't experienced that. We hope you don't experience it either. So we don't got to answer for you. Well, what do we do if it happens? Well, you tell us what happens when you do it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you also got to understand that the process might not give you the results that you want, but there are a lot of lessons in that. Like, for example, with this podcast, we're going to scale this thing. And I'm saying this on air. But even though we haven't scaled it to the place where we want to, we've done 5-figure deals on a personal level because of the podcast. We have looked into different businesses outside of just the podcast. I mean, we have fellowship with each other. There are things that we've shared. We've gotten more comfortable with each other. And it's a relationship that spans further than just, when we get on the mic.
Yeah, we did the mentoring, the high school mentoring for a couple of years prior to the pandemic. The pandemic kind of ruined, it kind of messed things up, a little momentum and things like that. But yeah, we're doing community, community engagement and things like that. So it's bigger than this.
People are scared to do things. I'm like, you don't even know what could come from that. And you might say, okay, I want to have the successful business, but doing that, you could figure out, oh, wait, there's a different branch of this business that could yield results. But because you're so scared of starting, you're never going to experience those things. So hey, we gotta dive into some of our dreams. Stop leaving them in your sleep.
Definitely. So speaking of the pandemic or whatever you want to call it, and pandemic, I don't know what it's called. Respectfully. But during, I guess it was late 2000, early 2022, did you see any major negative effects of the business? Did it boost the business? Because I mean, people started being home more. So I guess the more you're home, you probably dirty up the house a little bit more.
Yeah.
So then that would naturally, require more cleaning jobs. So how did the pandemic affect the business, good or bad?
So when it started, when did the world shut down? March 2020.
Yo, I'm saying time flew by. Like people be asking.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what? We year 3 in this 4?
Right.
March 2020 is when pandemic, when the world shut down, and February 2020 was our biggest month ever in the cleaning business at the time. And so then March, our numbers plummeted. So for, Texas is a little different from how New York operated and how some other states operated. So from about March,
Texas was a wide open. I came down there. Yeah, it was wide open. Steakhouse, clubs, hey.
They were open. Yeah. So from March to May, things did slow down, right? But it wasn't to the point that we were like, we closing up shop or anything like that. But we know a lot of businesses did face that. But once May came back around, May, June, that summer, we were back up and running. So that's the only time that I would say that it really slowed down. Those 3 months, it was a drastic drop.
You literally go and look at the stock, the S&P for that same time, our business followed that same graph as well. Because during that time, people were trying to figure out, what is this pandemic? What is COVID? Oh, well, we actually need to clean homes.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, well, now people are shifting into pandemic cleaning or COVID cleaning. But the way we run our business was that we couldn't do that because we work with contractors and nobody really knew what the hell a COVID cleaning was until everything opened back up. So we literally followed the graph of the market where everything slowed down in March and then picked back up by May.
Yeah. So that was only
cleaners were labeled as essential workers. Yep. Once we found that out, I was like, all right, let's turn marketing back on. Let's turn
it's lit, right? It's lit.
Let's kick it back up.
Did you
but again, it goes back to we had to pivot because things are slowing down. How do we keep the lights on with the business?
Did you guys take advantage of any PPP loans? Because while there are a lot of people that misuse them, if you use them properly, it was a pretty good tool to help your business.
Yeah, so we applied for, what was it, the EID, that one. But we didn't do anything with it because we had contractors and we essentially just use that money to pay them when they go do their jobs. So that's what we used it for. And that wasn't a grant. It was a grant. It was a PayPal grant or something like that for essential businesses during the pandemic.
Got you. So I have a gripe with a lot of businesses that advertise on social media. I always hear it's recession proof. Oh, this is recession proof. And I'm like, we actually haven't gone through a recession. And, your business is less than 3 years old. So it's interesting that you make that claim, but it is something that you have to think about, right? Because in 2023, if you ask a room of 10 economists or analysts, over half of those people are going to say, hey, we're probably going to head into a recession. So how have you guys tried to prep? Do you think it's a recession-proof business? What are your thoughts on 2023 and some of the signs that we're getting from the economy in terms of where we're heading?
A great question. So one of the things that we're doing right now is looking into government contracting, because that's everybody's about government contracting, but we're getting people sending us information like, listen, because this goes back to just people being unprepared in their cleaning businesses or their janitorial services. They're not applying for these things. Like, it's online, it's a lot of paperwork. People are sending this stuff to us like, yo, you guys need to apply. We got one for Dallas, Texas that was like 1.3 million. And we were like, well, we're not prepared for this, but now we're getting our ducks in a row. So the next time it comes around, we can actually go out and apply for these proactively versus people just sending them over to us. That's one of the things that we're doing to not just to prepare, but just to give us more leverage in our business. So government contracting would be one for janitorial services.
And then we're always, since getting into the space, big on diversifying. So, we have 2 rental properties already, but we're always looking to kind of grow on that so that one thing falls down, we got the backup of the next business, we got the backup of the next business. So that's how we kind of work it and never feel like, how they say, stay ready so you have to get ready. And that's kind of how we try to operate.
And we also treat our business finances like our personal finances. So when we paid off our debt, we had a 6-month emergency fund. Then we moved that up to a year. And then all of our businesses during COVID, it was like, what happens during COVID? So all of our businesses have at least 6 months to a year of emergency funds. And those are some things that we're doing that we've done for the past 5 years, because we didn't just come into this business and say, all right, we're going to take out all the money and just go blow it. Like, we treat our business finances the same way we do our personal finances.
Yeah.
I love that. And I also like the fact that some of your diversification in regards to the rentals, they're complementary to your business, right? So you have rentals, and when people move out, you need to clean those things. So it's like, hey, these things can work really quickly because you have some synergies working together. And I mean, there are other things that you could do that could just add more synergies to that, whether it's Airbnbs, because they need cleaning as well. So I like the fact that they're complementary to each other.
And then we also own a virtual assistant business for cleaning business owners. And that's another just kind of pivot in that business. Yeah.
Vertical integration.
Nice.
That's cool. So I have to ask, this is a lighter moment. Have you had like any crazy stories of like, your contractors like doing anything crazy or like, not showing up for some outlandish reasons? Like, what do you do in those times when, say, like someone cancels last second and you say you only clean 3 spots? So we know you're not. We know it better be the 23rd hour and 59 minutes before y'all jump into action. So how do you, when we're speaking about pivot, like how do you handle those type of situations?
Not showing up, those are the easy ones. That's easy.
The way that it's funny because the way that we operate, when people ask this question, like the way we operate now, 5 years in versus 2 months in would be totally different. Like if someone is calling out last minute or not going to job, it becomes like anxiety driven. Like, oh God, now I got to tell this person they ain't gonna show up to their house. They want their cleaning, et cetera, et cetera. But life basically, happens. Essentially, and most people are okay and some people are not. So essentially, we would probably say like the person that was coming to your home had an emergency and would no longer be able to make it. Can we move your home to the next day and give you $30 off? Boom. That's what I'm saying at this point. Everybody, I mean, right now we have an operations manager in place, so I'm not talking to anybody anymore. But that's kind of the SOP if that happens, right? And then in the meantime, maybe we were looking for someone else to go out that day. Because sometimes we do have people that can still go out that day. But before, I know we used to be like, who's going to call? Are you going to call? I'm going to call. Because we didn't want to have to deal with the client.
Deliver that hard message. Yeah, delivering a hard message is always
that, I know you got the confirmation of the emails that we were coming. I know you got everything else, but we can't make it because A, B, and C. And like I said, 80% of the time people like are okay with that. Especially if you're throwing money at, taking money off, they're fine with it. And then sometimes they're not, and we just can't service you. I can't, I can't force somebody to show up because I ain't coming. So
yeah, the craziest one I think we had, or at least in my opinion, was it was a Friday night. We were out at a bar, and we had stopped working with these cleaners.
A couple
because they weren't good.
But I told you not to hire.
You told me not to hire, and it was a black couple, and I'm like, yo, let's give them a shot.
Oh man.
So
You always want to give black people a shot.
Right, we tried the nepotism,
We
hey.
stopped working with them because people always said they were nice. But we was like, how was the cleaning? They was like, oh, they were nice. I'm like,
Yeah, it was some areas.
So we ended up not stop working with them. And then Friday night, we get a negative review. We at the bar, we turn it up, and a 1-star review comes in.
We weren't together.
We weren't together. 1-star review comes in. And I'm like, wait, what the hell? He's like, oh, these people showed up to my house and they smell like weed, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait, what? And the people he was talking about was them. And I was like, we stopped working with them months ago.
Yeah.
So this review had to be recent. So we reached out to him and he ended up saying, oh yeah, I was still working with them. I apologize. They ended up poaching me and I was working with them directly. And I ended up firing them because they smelled like weed. I was like, wait, that's not a reflection of my company.
Right.
You went out and hired them after we stopped working with them on your own on the side. Do you mind deleting the review? He was like, oh, I'll see what I could do, but I apologize. And I felt bad that I did this. I was like, all right, you're an asshole, number one. Number two, you left us a bad review and impacted my business.
Right.
And number three, you tell me we'll see.
And number four, you called on a Friday night.
And a Friday night.
Because at that time, we still had the business phone, like the business number connected to our phone. So we get like the ding, like somebody's calling or a missed call.
The way we handle it now is so different looking back, but that was something that they smelled like weed. They ended up going to the client directly. He kept them on and then left us a 1-star review.
Job. Yeah, that was.
Hey, but no wonder the only thing you could hear back from them was that they were nice. They were high. They were happy. They were just.
They were happy.
They were nice because they were happy.
They were nice because they were
high as hell. That's what it was.
They wasn't doing no work. They like, yo, I'm too high for this, man.
I'm too high for this.
Jhanilka, listen. Piece of advice: always listen to your wife or your spouse. She's never steered me.
My intuition be
when she's like she got a feeling. That be it, and I'll be wrong most of the time with that. Business stuff, I'm usually right.
You're very nice. I'm not. I'm very like.
I like.
I don't give many people benefit of the doubt.
So, as a coach in this business, right, you need players, and you need quality players. How do you find quality players? I know people can come to you and say, "Hey, I want to learn from you," but there also has to be a process, right? You just can't take everybody because, hey, people are nice, right? And then they smell like weed. But how do you figure out who you actually devote your time to, who you actually pour into as a coach in this business?
So to be upfront and honest with you, there's not many people on our team, right? So I said we have an operations manager, but we got her when we bought the virtual assistant business because we bought that business from someone and she was working there. And then we brought her onto our team and, promoted someone else for that business. And so this year we are really looking into getting more people to be part of the team. We also had a virtual assistant that was helping us with content, kind of reaching out and doing that, reach out for us for podcasts and different things like that. But in regards to building a full team, we don't really have a full team besides us, operation manager for our cleaning business. And then we have like a community manager for our community. But that's something that we're actually working on.
And for the actual cleaning business itself with the contractors, we only hire probably 1 out of every 100 applicants because we did the math and most of them are just bad anyway. And our hiring process is a question people ask is, how do you vet people?
Right.
Our hiring process is so rigid that only 1 out of every 100 people kind of make it to even the final part of that. And most of the time they don't even do that part either. So our hiring process is very rigid on the cleaning business side because we understand the better people you have on that side of the actual cleaning jobs, everything else becomes easy for you. So we have some pretty good cleaners and a lot of them have been with us where they've gone through that process and they know, all right, I'm not bringing no BSers to Anthony and Jhanilka because they don't play around. And it's not that we don't play around. It's our customers, this is a very demanding business, a very demanding job. So
and it's a luxury too.
Yeah, it's a luxury service. So if I don't want you, I'm going to the next person on the corner who cleans, essentially.
Right.
And like with a lot of luxury businesses, customer service is very important, to have repeat customers, your loyalists and things like that. So like you said, having quality workers and not worrying so much about, quantity, makes all the difference.
Yeah, we got one lady who's been with us, 5 years, and we've cleaned her house every week for $200 a week over the course of 5 years. And that's just one customer. And she's She's an older lady. And she's like, listen, they come up, they do their job, they leave me alone. I'm good with that. So people like that also doing what you say you're going to do in business, right? A lot of people take it for granted when we tell people, listen, if you answer the phone in your business, you're going to beat out 80% of the people because most of the time they're not even answering the phones. You call a contractor right now to come do some work in your home. You call a plumber, you call a handyman. Most of the time they're not even answering the phones because A, they are too booked, they too busy, or they just don't know how to handle their business. So if you just do that, you're beating out 80% of these other industries by just doing the bare minimums. And we say we could just do that part, we should be good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you mentioned your team and you also said, there are options to expand. What opportunities are available for people who are interested in joining your team?
We need a lot. We
Hey,
feel
look,
like we need
this could be us just, creating this, we could be the next ZipRecruiter, right? You can say what you
yeah, no.
So people ask us all the time, like we have students in 35 states. Now, one thing we would do is I would open up a cleaning business in another state under our name. Now, I wanted to make sure we wanted to make sure we had everything in Dallas locked down, operations manager, phone calls being answered, making sure we kind of not milk the market, but squeezed it until we felt like, all right, there's not much more we could do here. And going into another market, we've had students who want to partner with us in different cities and states. Who's like, we don't know if you have that. But there are some students who are doing really well. And we're actually interviewing a couple coming up, and they've done 500K in their cleaning business in 2 years. And they're like in a DMV area. It's like, yo, those are people that you want to partner with to expand in different states where you're actually one company versus all of us starting our own separate companies.
Yeah.
And we become like the quote unquote Janny King, which is like a franchise model for janitorial services. So that's something that we could, I guess, have been playing with in our mind.
Yeah. And then on the coaching side of it, just like social media manager is something that we're always looking for. We kind of have an editor now, but I think that's like the biggest thing that would kind of assist us as well when it comes to the coaching side of things.
Yeah, and you're gonna have people listening to this who are gonna be curious, how practical it is to learn from you guys. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to buy a house, hey, you have to have a certain credit score, you have to have a down payment. For the average individual who's just listening to this, how can they learn from you guys? Is there a certain requirement for, okay, well, first you got to read this book, and then understand a little bit about saving or budgeting or investing? Where do people have to be at in order for them to be able to learn from you?
I mean, we should have that in place, but no, we don't have that in place in that they have to read something. It's really low cost startup and pretty easy to get into the business, right? So we say that they should have about $1,500 to start. And that's not necessarily that's not in one shot, right? So that's including getting your LLC, starting your business bank account. So you start your LLC, then 3 weeks later, maybe you're putting 200 in the business bank account. Another week later, you're getting your website up and running. So $1,500 is really what you need to start the cleaning business.
And I think,
No. And then I was just going to add on our course would be the other thing that I would say to help you start. But other than that, really, your $1,500 can help you go a long way. It's really not that expensive to get this business up and running.
And I think the difference between someone who's successful and following like our blueprint, someone who's not, is a mindset. And it sounds so cheesy, sounds so corny, but it's literally nothing that you're going to go through that you can't handle. A lot of times people just overthink it. We just did a small group coaching call, and the goal was to see if we could still get somebody's business up and running within 6 weeks, and people did it. And the difference between the people who did it and the people who didn't do it was just the mindset. The person was like, yo, I'm hungry, I'm getting to work, I'm showing up, doing the home. We even did extra calls with people to give them like, yo, what else do you need? And they was like, yo, coach, I got this, I'm good. And it was literally just difference in mindset between the people who got it up and running in 5-6 weeks and the people who didn't, because they just kept creating those barriers. Oh, I had this. Oh, I forgot to do this. It's like, how could we give you the same information as someone, the same homework, the same blueprint, but completely different outcomes? So I think having that mindset of just like, yo, I'm ready to go, I'm gonna get this, can really be the difference between make or break with someone in this business.
So $1,500, I got that. Does that also cover the course? What's the cost for the course?
Our course currently is $997. I don't know when you're going to launch this, but I say currently because
That's what I was about to say.
because our price can change, honestly.
Yeah, right.
But right now our course is $997. So the $1,500 is outside of that. So you get the course at $997 and then the $1,500 to run your business because the business belongs to you. I think a lot of people confuse it that we have some type of stock
Ownership
or
rights in
ownership
this.
in their business. We do not. We do not. It's your business to keep.
So the reason why
That's-
I asked that, I told you guys I had the breakthrough where I'm no longer cheap, I'm delivered. So I'm wondering, could we do something? Hey Josh, can we do $200 off to everyone who is interested in that course? We'll pay $200 of that.
To everyone who's
Yeah,
interested.
who's interested in that course? CC Smack, 100 on me, 100 on
CC
you.
Smack.
Yeah,
Do you have maybe we could talk about like a code or something?
yeah, we
You
could do
probably
that.
have to set up a code.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah, because one thing I want our listeners to understand is it would bring me so much joy to hear like, yo, I heard them on CC Smack and, I used a little code, made it a little cheaper, got my little 1,500. Well, 1,500 isn't little, but I got my 1,500 together and I'm ready to go,
Mhm.
So, Josh, we good on that? I'm no longer cheap, so I'm
Oh, all right.
hey, so yeah, we
You
gonna
no longer cheap, but you taking money from Josh's pocket too. Like you
gotta know your partner.
wait a minute. We do things together.
My man.
Things together, okay?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we got y'all.
But
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
we'll talk outside of this about that. We'll set something up, but that is definitely something we can commit to. We understand that, it is about the mindset, but anything we could do to help people get started, we want to make sure we can go ahead and do that. So last thing I wanted to ask here, who is your competitor or who are your competitors? Do you look at anybody and say, okay, they have a model where we need to combat that, or they have a model where, hey, we need to do you have any competitors?
The cleaning business.
The cleaning business,
and
you mean?
The
Yes, the
actual
cleaning
business
business.
itself. Any business in Dallas, Texas. The biggest cleaning company in Dallas, Texas, where I have his number. And I don't think we're
No.
I would say I don't think we're competitors because at the end of the day, there's enough money for everyone on my field. And
Yeah.
I say Dallas has I think the population is like 1.3 million. And if you just get a small percentage of that, your business is going to be good. So we don't compete in terms of that. He's been in the business 15 years, so he's always going to rank number one just based off of his domain having that age, and we're going to be number 2 and number 3. So in terms of that, no.
Yeah, we always say we don't need the full pie. A piece of the pie is enough
Yeah,
for
and
us, right? You know what I mean?
That's what I always say
Oh.
as well. Like you don't need, like you said, the whole pie. It's enough work for everybody. You don't need to be greedy.
Yeah.
And
we got so
Dallas
much
is
happening.
metropolis,
2
right.
kids from Brooklyn owning a cleaning business. I'm totally fine with if we continue where we are today for the next year or so. But in terms of the coaching space, honestly, I don't think anyone does it like us. There's no one doing podcasts. There's no one that has their own podcast. There's no one on YouTube. There's no one on IG Live. There's no one on Twitter.
There's no couples.
There's no couples.
Now we have some students that have taken our course and gone on to then teach.
Whoa, let's
But are
not
they
talk about
married?
them like that.
But
Let's
are
not
they
talk about
married?
them like that.
Or are they married?
Do they come with rings?
Are they couple? Do they come with rings? Yes.
They're not couples and they're not us. And that's the thing, about that we try to tell people as well. Like,
You have your own story.
Yeah, whatever you do, you're going to stand out. I can't control people taking my course and going to do their own thing, and I'm not looking to do so, unless it's something that I got to get a lawyer involved, but it's nothing like that. But you know what I mean? We are who we are, and that's who we're going to be. For whatever reason, you may be attracted to us because we're a couple, because we're Black, because we're from Brooklyn. Those may be reasons why you don't like us as well. So we're fine with that. We're okay and comfortable with that. We're not for everyone, and that's okay too.
She nailed it.
Hey, I dig that. So I see the bookcase behind you. Are you currently reading anything, in your spare time?
The bookcase is because he didn't want to have Beyonce there. I had her there, but he's a hater. But no, he reads. I do not, to be honest.
Right now, my community, our cleaning business community voted on reading the 10X rule for the new year.
Okay.
So we're starting that book, I think the end of the month.
Actually,
it's
this
the
week.
end of the month now.
Yeah, it's the end of the week.
So we're going to do 10X rule. I was like, all right, so we're going to do that.
There's some books we read there.
Last book I read was
Is Atomic Habits there?
When you got the hand on your chest.
No, I read
Profit first?
last book I read was You Owe You by Eric Thomas.
Oh yeah,
I've been big into him recently, so I got a couple copies, but that's the last book I read. It's just about his story and how he overcame being poor, and he's a hip hop preacher and all that stuff. So that's the last book I read. More motivational than anything.
Really quick, did you like Beyonce's last album?
Renaissance?
Duh. Yeah, I did. You didn't like it?
No, I loved it.
Oh, okay.
It was different. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nah,
no, I
so-
liked it. I wasn't expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. Listen, just put something out, child. It's been years. We haven't heard.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
wait on the tour now. We wait on the tour tickets to come out, right?
Yes, we are. But she performed in Dubai last night.
I
and
saw
I've
that,
been
yeah.
seeing that up
Hey.
on TikTok.
If y'all think the course price is expensive, wait till them tickets drop. Wait till them tickets.
Exactly. And I'm
Get
here
your
for it.
course
I'm
first. Get your course first.
Yeah.
Get this one first.
No CC Smack discount on the Beyonce tickets.
No. I'm here. I'm ready for it. Like, yeah, we've been waiting because it's been years, and where I am now financially from the last time I saw her is completely different. So I am ready for her.
Now y'all do
You gotta
things
know you gotta
together.
make it
So
smart now.
Anthony, are you also excited? I don't see the excitement.
Oh yeah, let's do it, yo.
Listen, we didn't talk about this, but when we were doing our debt-free journey, I gave him a contract to sign because I wasn't fully on board yet, but then I got on board, and the contract just was like, we're going to be able to communicate without you talking down to me. You're going to be able to explain things to me because he was the one listening to podcasts and stuff. And on the contract was, if Beyonce goes on tour, we will have to still do it, even though we're paying off debt. I swear.
Fortunately,
But she never went on
That's
tour.
serious
We
stuff
got
right
like,
she got a baby. So
Is this contract indefinite? Like it just goes on, so there's no stop to it?
just during the time we were paying off debt, really.
Yeah,
So that was
yeah.
2 years.
We haven't missed the Beyonce concert in
Oh wow.
a while.
Yeah.
Hey, I
Yeah.
respect it, man. I respect
But if she's gonna try to follow the Taylor Swift route, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't her. It was Ticketmaster. It wasn't
I
Taylor
don't know.
Swift.
Price is crazy. I know that.
Oh
So,
man.
yeah.
Well, hey, so you have a lot of people who are listening to this, and they're obviously going to be interested in, hey, how can I learn more? Where can I tune into the podcast? What can I do to, get some coaching? Where can people reach out to you and learn more about the opportunities that you're providing?
Our podcast is the Hartzog Hustle Podcast, and you can find that on any of the sites that you listen to it at. YouTube, our name is The Hartrimony, which is the same on Instagram. So it's the HARTRIMONY, The Hartrimony.
And you can learn about if you want to launch or scale a 6 or 7 figure cleaning business, cleaningbusinessuniversity.com, and whatever code y'all put, I'll try to get the tech team on that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, ask your former CEO. Maybe he may have learned by now. Who knows?
He damn sure did it. I'll tell you.
And I do want to put a disclaimer out there. I'm still a little cheap, so we're gonna cap it at 5, 5 codes. I'm still a little cheap.
So first 5, they got to jump on it. You got
Yeah, they gotta jump on it. They gotta jump on
Gotta
it.
take action.
So
Gotta
we'll
jump
work
on
on that first 5. Yeah, I'm still a little cheap. But hey, man, this has been a great episode. I want to thank you guys for sharing the knowledge. Not only just from a business standpoint, but from a personal
Yeah,
standpoint.
your journey, is definitely one that people can look at and, definitely take notes from. And like I said, it's ongoing. It's just the beginning. We young. You know what I'm saying? They say, oh, when you're 30, you're getting old. Nah, my 30s are young to me. So
unless you under 30, you old, man. Somebody said that on Twitter today. I was like, damn, I'm old then.
nah.
There was a saying, I don't know if I remember it, but it's like, you should, you want to know that you're old, but you want to still also understand that you're young.
Oh, it's what is it? Something about something about not wasting time. Like I'm old enough.
It's like, we're old, but I can still be young enough where I can take chances on things. I'm not gonna just, because I think sometimes people think of age as like your 401k, where the older you get, the less risk that you take, the more conservative you take. But I think for me, it's like, I'm old enough where I'm not going to drink the same way I drank 10 years ago, but I'm young enough.
From Fabulous, the young OG, old enough to know better, but young enough not to give a fuck.
Hey, yes, that's the
Hey, you say you could curse on here?
Hey, wait, hold on. You need to go back up on stage at the Potter's house.
Church show.
And on that note,
From the church show
Potter's house.
on
Right.
Sunday to Fabulous on Sunday night.
Nah,
Hey, the versatility,
wrong.
man.
I love it. I
Catch
love
us
it.
on the right night. Do not get me wrong.
The versatility, man. Well, hey, once again, thank you. This has been episode 224
Yep.
with the Hartzogs. So you can find CC Smack on all streaming platforms, but you can make sure to check us out on our website, which is ccsmackpodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter at CC Smack Podcast. If you want to follow me on an individual tip, I still have a fiance, so chill. You can follow me at Long Live TOBE. Where can they follow you at? I got to put this out there because you know they say engagement office like open season,
man.
not open season.
You know, it's gonna be like the Beyonce tickets. Once they hear about the release time, they gonna be waiting at the door. They gonna be waiting at the door. You know what I'm saying? But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh D Lifestyle. And thank you once again, Anthony and Jhanilka. I got it right.
Thank you for having us.
But yeah, we definitely look forward to hearing about the first 5 people using the code. We're gonna put the code in the podcast description when we release it. So that's where you'll be able to find it. If you can't find it, then I don't know how good you're gonna be with the cleaning business.
Period.
That's another one.
Well, hey, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Episode 224. Thank you for listening. Make sure you share this with a friend. Tell them to share with a friend, family members, whoever. Until next time, peace.